A rich girl humiliated the waitress, until the Mafia boss stepped in and shocked everyone. The restaurant called Rosario was not the kind of place where ordinary people walked in off the street. It sat on a quiet corner in the heart of Milan, tucked behind a heavy wooden door with no sign outside. No big neon lights, no menu in the window. Nothing. You either knew about it or you didn't. The tablecloths were fresh white linen, changed between every single sitting. The wine list was 40 pages long, and the bread arrived warm at your table without anyone asking, every time, without fail. That was just how things were done there. On a Friday evening in October, the restaurant was full. Soft voices drifted across the room. Glasses clinked gently. The smell of garlic and rosemary floated out from the kitchen in waves. It was the kind of night where everything felt almost perfect. Almost like the city outside didn't exist. Like time had slowed down just for the people inside that room. Elena had been on her feet since noon. She was 27 years old, with dark hair pulled back tight, and the kind of quiet face that people sometimes mistook for coldness. It wasn't coldness, it was just focus. She had studied literature at university. 4 full years of reading stories about people who turned their hardest moments into something beautiful. And now, she was carrying plates of food to tables full of people who barely looked up when she set them down. She didn't complain about it. Not to anyone, anyway. The job covered her mother's care home bills, and that was the only thing that mattered right now. Her mother had been sick going on 2 years. Elena visited every Sunday, brought pastries from the bakery near the station, sat beside the bed, held her hand. Then she drove back alone to her small apartment, and didn't cry until she was through the door. She was that kind of person, quietly strong, the type of strength that most people walk right past without ever noticing. That evening, she was assigned to table 9. Sophia arrived at 7:15 with 4 girlfriends, all of them dressed like they had somewhere more important to be afterward. She was 24, the only daughter of a property developer whose name sat on buildings all across the Milan skyline. Beautiful the way some people are beautiful when nothing has ever been hard for them. Naturally polished, completely comfortable, with eyes that were always already looking for something wrong. She sat down without removing her coat. That, right there, was the first sign. Elena greeted the table with her usual warm smile and asked about water. Still or sparkling? Sparkling, Sophia said, already looking down at her phone. Elena brought it. The glass came back 30 seconds later. It's too cold, Sophia said, not looking up. Elena apologized quietly and brought another glass. That one came back too. Too warm now. One of Sophia's friends glanced up with an uncomfortable look on her face. The other girls laughed as if this was all normal. Elena said nothing. She just fetched another glass, found something in between, set it down without a word. It went on like that, all through the starter course. The bread wasn't right. The lighting near the table was too harsh. The music was too loud. Each complaint came with a little smile from Sophia, like she was genuinely enjoying herself, like this was entertainment, like she was checking how far she could push before something gave way. Nothing gave way. Elena kept her voice even and her movements steady. She had learned years ago that certain people only want one thing from you, a reaction, and the worst thing you can ever give them is exactly that. But then came the wine. It happened during the main course. Sophia had ordered a bottle of red, a nice one, and Elena had been working her way around the table refilling glasses with the careful, practiced movement of someone who had done this 1,000 times. She was pouring for one of the other women when Sophia shifted suddenly in her chair, fast, without warning, and her elbow caught the edge of a glass sitting too close to the table's edge. The glass fell. The wine went with it. Most of it landed on Elena. The dark red spread across her white uniform shirt like a stain that was never going to come out. Elena went still. Just for a moment. Not from shock exactly. She had survived worse nights than this one. But she stood there, wine dripping off the front of her shirt, bottle still in her hand, and she didn't say a word. The table around her went completely silent. Then Sophia laughed. Not a nervous laugh. Not a sorry laugh. A real one. Easy and full. The way people laugh when they find something genuinely funny and don't care who's watching. You really should have been paying more attention, she said, picking up her own napkin to dab at her sleeve, even though nothing had touched her. I mean, this is basically your one job, isn't it? One of the girls at the table said Sophia's name in a low, warning tone. Sophia ignored her. She had already pulled out her phone. She held it up, camera pointed directly at Elena. "I'm putting this on my stories," she said brightly, like it was the most casual thing in the world. A little tutorial on how not to be a waitress. The tables around them had stopped talking. People were watching now. The restaurant manager, a man named Marco, was standing near the kitchen door. He saw everything. He didn't move. Elena looked straight at the phone's camera. Her jaw was tight, but her voice came out steady and low. "Please don't film me." Then she turned and walked toward the kitchen to find something to clean up the mess. As she pushed through the door, she could still hear Sophia laughing behind her. At table 2, a small corner booth set a little apart from the rest of the room, the kind of table that requires a specific kind of reservation. A man set down his glass. His name was Dante Ferraro, 48 years old, gray at the temples. He had the kind of stillness to him that made a room feel more quiet just by having him in it. Dark suit, no tie, real paper documents spread across the table with handwritten notes in the margins. Most of the diners in the room hadn't paid him any attention at all. The ones in this city who recognized the Ferraro name would have noticed the two men sitting 2 tables over, who had ordered nothing and were watching the door very carefully. He had seen every single moment of what just happened. He stood up slowly. No rush, no performance. He left his napkin folded on the table and walked across the restaurant toward table 9. Sophia was still on her phone. She heard footsteps stop beside her and looked up, already smoothing her expression into something charming, already assuming that whoever had come over was on her side. She looked at his face and stopped. There was nothing aggressive about him. No raised voice, no clenched jaw, no look of someone about to cause a scene. He just looked at her the way you look at something that has let you down, quietly and completely, and without any drama at all. "Put the phone down," he said, quiet enough that only the table could hear it. Sophia blinked. "Do you have any idea who my father—" "Emilio Coretti," he said, flatly. Like a fact, not a question. She stopped. "He ran into some trouble in 2019, Dante continued, unhurried. "A business associate of mine helped him through it. The arrangement was generous because I asked for it to be. If you'd like to call your father right now and ask him whether he knows the name Ferraro, I will wait right here." Not a single person at the table said anything. Sophia placed the phone face down on the table. "Delete what you filmed of her." She picked the phone back up and deleted it. He didn't look around the room to see who had witnessed it. He didn't linger at the table. He simply turned away from Sophia, as if she was a matter that had been settled, and he walked across the restaurant toward the kitchen door, where Elena was coming back out with a cloth in her hands, and a face that was working hard to hold itself together. "What is your name?" he asked her. She looked up, caught off guard. "Elena, Elena," he said, "I am sorry that happened to you tonight. It should not have." He said it simply. No grand gesture, no looking around to make sure someone was watching him be kind. He just said it because it was true, and she deserved to hear it. Elena didn't know what to say. She nodded once. He reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and took out a small white business card. He didn't press it into her hand. He set it on the edge of the tray she was carrying, gently, so that it was entirely her decision what to do with it. "My sister runs a publishing house here in the city," he said. "Marco told me you studied literature at university. She has been looking for an editorial assistant for 3 months, and hasn't found the right person yet. That is her number. You can call it or not. I just wanted you to have it." He held her gaze for a moment. "You carried yourself with more dignity in the last half hour than anyone else in this room. That includes the people who said nothing when they should have." Then he walked back to his corner table, sat down, and picked up his documents again. Just like that, as if nothing unusual had happened at all. The restaurant found its sound again slowly, conversations starting back up, someone clinking glasses, a soft laugh from somewhere across the room. Life moves on in a dining room. It always does. Sophia and her friends left before dessert. She paid the bill without making eye contact with the staff. Her friends followed her out in near silence, their heels clicking against the floor. Sometimes a moment will settle into a person not as a lesson they were taught, but as something they simply felt, deep and uncomfortable and impossible to shake. That was the kind of night this had been for all of them. Elena finished out her shift. She wiped down the last tables, restocked the napkin holders, said goodnight to the kitchen staff who were scrubbing pots and joking about something she didn't catch. Her shirt was still stained. Dry now. The red turned to a dark brown shadow across the front. She had stopped thinking about it an hour ago. She walked to her car, sat down in the driver's seat, and looked at the small white card sitting on the passenger seat beside her bag. She had picked it up from the tray without even deciding to. Her hand had just done it on its own, quietly and without a fuss, like it already knew what she needed before she did. She called the number on a Tuesday morning 3 days later. She almost didn't. She stood in her kitchen with the card in her hand and talked herself out of it twice. What would she even say? How would she explain herself? What if nothing came of it, and the hope made things worse? But then she thought about her mother. She thought about 4 years of books she had loved and never done anything with. She thought about the way that man had looked at her. Not with pity, not with the softness people use when they feel sorry for you, but with something that felt like respect. Like he saw her as someone who was simply in the wrong place, not the wrong person. She made the call. The woman who answered was warm and direct, and asked her what she loved to read. They talked for 40 minutes. Elena started work the following month. She spent her days sitting with manuscripts from nervous, hopeful writers, people who had poured something real into their pages, and were terrified to find out if it was enough. Elena read their words carefully, helped shape them into something sharper and truer. She stayed late on some evenings because she genuinely wanted to be there, not because she had to be. She still visited her mother every Sunday, still brought pastries, still held her hand. But something in her had settled back into place. Some belief she had nearly let go of entirely, the quiet belief that the right doors were still out there for people who kept going. Dante Ferraro was back at his corner table the following Friday. Same scotch, same papers, same stillness. The staff greeted him when he arrived. They meant it this time, not just because it was their job to be pleasant, but because some people earn warmth that way, not by demanding it, but by deserving it. He nodded, sat down, and went back to work. There is a kind of power that announces itself loudly, that needs everyone in the room to feel smaller, so that it can feel larger. You see it all the time. It wears designer clothes and speaks with a raised voice, and mistakes cruelty for confidence. And then there is the other kind, the kind that walks quietly across a restaurant to stand up for someone who can't stand up for herself in that moment. The kind that doesn't do it for the applause or the story, but simply because it is the right thing, and no one else is doing it. The room full of people who looked away that night will carry it with them longer than they want to admit. Elena carries it too, but differently. As the night that reminded her of something she had almost forgotten, that one person, in one moment, deciding to act with basic decency, can change the entire direction of someone else's life. That is worth remembering.